Welcome back to the fourth down focus. We're here again, week 11, doing a lot of the same stuff we always do. I'm joined by Max, that way,
Hello.
Caden,
Hello, everyone.
and also James, who I'm going to throw it back to start us off.
Yeah, hello. So, we'll start off as we normally do, and I'm not starting it yet again. Our teams this week, I can't actually remember your results, but I'll start. Well, actually, no, to be fair, we haven't actually got much to do this week because you two, Max and Kean, didn't actually have a game. So,
It's our best result of the season.
It was.
So, two of you on the bye week. Caden, I'll start with you then, with the Bengals.
It's the same story again, unfortunately. Obviously, it's a hard game going against the Ravens. Always a hard game, no matter who you are. But with a divisional game as well, it's just always going to be a weird one. But I'm not going to be that person that blames the officials. But a lot of it is down.
But you are.
Yeah, I am blaming the officials. Yeah, it's the one where there's the free face mask in one picture is the one that really gets me. We had like the holding call, and it's just so frustrating to be a Bengals fan when we should be winning these games and we're losing in overtime. And Joe Burrow is playing the best he's probably played since our Super Bowl run. It's just sad to watch, and I think the playoff dream might be dead. Unfortunately, let's just see what happens against the Chargers.
He's finally admitted it.
I know, I can't believe it. I was waiting for the day.
10 weeks.
I mean, I don't particularly want to talk much about our game.
How's your playoff push going?
Yeah, great. We are the only team in the entire NFL who can't make the playoffs now, so far. I think we're the only team so far who can't make the playoffs anymore.
Wasn't it the NFC?
Yeah, there's a screenshot. I don't know. We might throw it in here. I don't know if you can find it, but there's a screenshot where it says the NFC team's in the hunt, and every team is in the screenshot in the NFC apart from the Giants. So yeah, that's always fun. I don't really know where to start. I'm glad I didn't get tickets, put it that way. In Germany, we lost the Panthers, and I saw Tyrone Tracy crying on the sideline after he got strip fumbled to lose us the game. But to be honest, he's probably just inserted himself as a Giants legend already because that's just saved our season. We needed to lose, and we did lose. I think Kian and Caden thought we would win. I don't know what planet you were living on. We've made Bryce Young look like Patrick Mahomes in his prime, and Chuba Hubbard's apparently the best running back in the league if you play against us. But yeah, apart from that, all good.
Sound happy?
Yeah, pretty much. Ken, you spoke about your game, obviously. 428 yards for Burrow, 4 passing touchdowns, and you still lose the game in overtime. My question to everyone is, would Joe Burrow be an MVP candidate if the Bengals were not terrible? I'll start with you, Kian.
Yes, is the simple answer. He's having an unbelievable season, but the team aren't having an unbelievable season. Him and Jamar Chase are playing ridiculously. The rest of them aren't. That's just literally as simple as you can put it. And, the higher-ups at the NFL who do pick the MVP, they're going to look at that and they're just going to think, well, what's the point in picking a man who's not even made the playoffs? So, yeah, I think he would be if they were having a good season, but they're not. So, no, he's not one now.
Max, same thing?
Yeah, I pretty much agree with what Kian said there. It's like he's having unbelievable games, but he's getting overlooked because the Bengals are terrible and they're not winning a lot of these games against the big opponents. They're beating some opponents that they should be beating, which is fair enough. That's what good teams do. But yeah, it's weird. It's a weird season for Joe Burrow. In a weird way, I feel bad for him, but at the same time, I don't give a shit. Fuck the Bengals.
Probably a rhetorical question in the UK, and so I'm going to assume you're going to say yes.
Yeah, it's just I thought everyone should say yes, because even if we pull off a miracle and made it into the playoffs, he could still be a MVP candidate if we at least win one game in the playoffs, just because of how good his numbers have been. That combination of him and Jamar Chase is the best in the NFL at the moment. I'm sure a lot of people would agree. So it's just a case of not making the playoffs. Yeah, you don't really count in the MVP run. So unfortunately, Burrow's probably ruled out now.
Yeah, I think it's kind of mental when you've got a potential offensive player of the year and a potential MVP candidate quarterback in your team and you have a negative record. It's quite impressive. But as I said, yeah, he would 100% be an MVP candidate. Had the Bengals not be, was it 4-6 now?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it also puts you in a tough spot because you're not low enough really to be getting a good draft pick, but you're also not really going to make the playoffs. So you're in that grey area of you're going to have a mid-round draft pick, and it might not be able to help you much for next year. But I guess we'll see who ends up falling that far in the draft. Next up, I've gone with the Lions versus the Texans. Probably the funniest and weirdest game of football I've watched in a long time. Jared Goff, 5 interceptions, and the Lions still win the game against the Texans. And, I've sort of said it before, but this is probably the sign of a team that could win this championship when you're playing one of the best teams in the NFL, you throw 5 interceptions, and you're still winning that game. It just shows, the mentality they've got in Detroit. I also mentioned Jake Bates, that sort of story this season. Obviously, was with the Texans before, moved to the Lions this summer and scored a 52-yard field goal to win them the game. Bates also, I looked it up, he's 14 for 14 for field goals this season and 32 for 33 on extra points. So it's a bit of a mental record for a kicker. But, I mean, Kian, just a weird game in general, I suppose, for both teams.
That, for me, is absolute NFL cinema. That's how it should be. You get high shootout games, that's more exciting. And to be fair to the Dolphins and the Rams, they give it a good go trying to tie the number. The day after, so many fumbles and stuff in that game. It was ridiculous. First of all, just a shout out to Ben Johnson. He play calls, like me after a night in the Wellington on Madden. It's so impressive. I honestly, I love him. I really hope we go and get him as a head coach in summer. And Jake Bates, you mentioned it. I think it's really hard for anyone who's a neutral to not be loving that storyline. That he's literally just living his dream, a walk on, and fair enough to him, he's absolutely ripping it up. So I think it'll probably be there again next year. So yeah, Lions are going to win the whole thing.
Max?
I think this was game of the week, but that is mainly because I didn't watch the Ravens and Bengals game. So that if I'd have watched that would have probably been my game of the week. But this game, I won a bit of money on it, so you can't complain. However, I wish I'd have backed Jared Goff to throw 5.
Gamble responsibly, everyone.
Gamble responsibly, everyone. Yeah. What we're gonna? You put me off now, Kian.
Sorry.
Yeah, the Lions coming back from 15, 16 points down. That's very impressive. That's a sign of a championship team, if you ask me. And the Texans, I feel like they're being overlooked. They were incredible, especially in that first half. They dominated that game, and they just got slightly beat to it at the end by a Jake Bates field goal, like we said. But I think it was a promising game for both teams, and I think they'll both kick on and do well in the playoffs.
Caden?
Yeah, it is funny to say, you threw 5 interceptions. But if you're going to throw 5 interceptions and also win the game, it kind of doesn't matter because the end goal is to just win the game, no matter how. And, as Max said, could be game of the week, but our game against the Ravens probably is game of the week. But the Lions, I do think they are going to win the Super Bowl this year. And there's no one that's going to stop them. I don't think the Chiefs could stop them with their black magic they've got going on down there.
Well, as you just said, speaking of the Chiefs, everyone's least favourite topic of the week, but it almost seems like they're almost unbeatable. They go to the Broncos. The Broncos have an unbelievable game, and then they have a field goal to win it with 2 seconds on the clock, and it's blocked by the Chiefs. I can't remember who it was. I think it was a Carl Aftis who actually blocked it in the end. I don't know, but another win for the Chiefs where you feel like they probably didn't deserve it. But Max, can this team be beaten is the question.
If they keep using their Taylor Swift Chiefs Devils magic, and they will go unbeaten and probably win the Super Bowl again and then do it for the next 5 years on repeat. I think they will be beaten. I think they might even be beaten this week, but I won't give away my prediction just yet. But I don't think they're going to go unbeaten. I've changed my mind. I said a few weeks ago that I think this could be the season they do it. But I've changed my mind because they can't keep getting away with these, that clip of Jesse Pinkman from Breaking Bad. You can't keep getting away with this. That about Andy Reid. You can't keep getting away with it. There's too many close games. The Broncos, who are not an amazing team, they were that close. So I think they're going to get beaten soon. And they'll probably still win the Super Bowl somehow. I don't know. I give up.
Kim?
I'm getting so fed up of it now. I have been for, since Mahomes became the starter. It's just painful, especially being in our division as well. Yeah, I do agree with Max. So they can't keep getting away with it, and they are playing really, really ugly football. And, Bundle of Ruski boy, the head coach, he needs to up his game a little bit because right, they are 9-0, but they're not playing well at all. And I don't want to give away my prediction either, but I do think this could be the week that they do get beaten because I really like the Bills and Josh Allen.
Caden?
Yeah, as you both said, I am fed up of the Chiefs winning these games, especially when it's a team like the Broncos and you'd do anything for the Broncos to beat the Chiefs because it'd be hilarious. Well, although you wouldn't. But yeah, it's just really, really boring, really, really frustrating that they're going to keep winning these games. But I think they have got their biggest test of the season this week against the Bills. And yeah, not going to spoil my prediction either, but could be a very, very good game. And Josh Allen could prove that he's a better quarterback than Patrick Mahomes.
So we've all taken the Bills there.
No, but yeah, it's just boring, isn't it? It's just continuously every game, and I'll talk about this later when we get onto the Broncos prediction. But I feel really bad for Bo Nix. He had an unbelievable game, all things considered, and he's been absolutely done in by a missed field goal at the end to cost him the chance to be the one who took down Mahomes. But I just don't see it ending anytime soon. I think whenever anyone says this week, they'll lose this week, and they just keep winning. I think it's been nearly a calendar year now since they lost a game of football. It's absolutely ridiculous. But yeah, we'll move on from this depressing topic of the Chiefs. Next up, I've put down the Steelers. So they beat the Commanders in, I believe, was it in Washington or was it? I don't know, I think it was in Pittsburgh. But either way, and big win for the Steelers against another team on plus 500. My sort of thing is, I've got two separate questions for you, but all this time. I've got, are the Commanders pretenders in this sort of playoff race? And is Mike Tomlin the leading candidate for Coach of the Year? I'll start with you, Ken.
I don't think the Commanders are pretending to be a good team. I think they are a good team. But, I mean, the record doesn't lie. They should be in the playoffs. And Jaden Daniels is having an unreal season. But you have to be winning some of these games, especially when you're playing the better teams that you're going to be playing in the playoffs as well. You need to be showing that you should be up there with the big boys. So I don't know if they're pretending, but maybe not as good as some people are making them out to be. But they are a good team. And to put it short, no, she should not be in the running for it.
I mean, I'll go next because I've got a bit to say about this one. I think the Commanders are massive pretenders in this playoff race. They have yet to beat a team on a better than 500 record this season. They've lost every game that they've played anyone half decent. I think I've said it from the start. I don't understand how that roster was where they are at the minute. I still don't get it. I still don't think it's very good. They brought in Lattimore. He got torn to pieces by that Steelers receiver group when he was on the field. I think if the Commanders do, they probably will get in the playoffs. Maybe they could even fall out of it if the Eagles keep winning games and they start losing to these big teams. But if they do, they're not winning a game in that playoff race, I think. And yeah, I just don't see them doing much at all for the rest of the season. And I do think Mike Tomlin should be in there. I disagree with you on that one, Caden. He's leading the Steelers team, which I still don't think is that great. And they just look better and better every game. Everyone questioned him when he made the decision to bring in Russ over Fields, and he's proven everyone wrong with that decision. Russ has been great since he came in. And, I mean, the record doesn't lie where they're at. They're going to make the playoffs. And I genuinely think if they perform at the level they can do, they could actually win a playoff game as well. So I think I'd definitely put him, maybe not the 100% first, but he's got to be in the top three for me.
He's getting
Yeah, I'm sort of split down the middle on them being pretenders because, a pretending team doesn't win that many games. They would slip up. Even some of the best teams in the league have slipped up this year. Look at the Ravens. They lost to the Browns and the Raiders. So, you can only beat what's in front of you is the first thing I'd say about them. And the rest of their season is not that tough. They play the Cowboys twice. Okay, they play the Eagles twice. That's huge. And then they play the Titans and the Saints and Falcons. That's a pretty favourable run-in for them. So, no, I don't think they're pretenders. I think they're a good team. But tonight, we're filming this on Thursday, tonight's game is going to be massive. If they can win that, then I think any sort of doubt in anyone's mind about that team, it just needs to go. And quickly before I mention Mike Tomlin, shout out to George Pickens. He might be the funniest player in the league. He literally, what is the point in him just wiping people out? I don't know, but I love it. And I don't know how much money he's been fined this year, but I imagine it's quite high. And yeah, I agree with you, James. Tomlin has to be in the running for Coach of the Year. I agree with basically every point you made was what I was going to say. So that's all I can say. But yeah, Tomlin has got to be in that top 3 for me.
Max?
I don't think the Commanders are pretenders. I think good teams win the games that they should win, and then you get into the bigger games, and it could go either way. So I don't think they're pretenders. I think the players on that roster are performing. Jane Daniels is unreal. Terry McLaurin's having a good year. I think Dante Fowler's like top 3 in the sack leading charts this season, which is insane at this point of his career. I think he's like in his 30s now. He's getting on a bit. As for Coach of the Year, I think Mike Tomlin's in the race. He's done a good job with not an amazing roster, although they've got some talent. But I don't think he's going to win it. I think Motor City Dan Campbell will be Coach of the Year.
Fair enough. So we'll sort of move on to Kian's favourite, Chicago Bears. Caleb Williams. Rumours that the teammates reportedly wanting Tyson Badgett to start from next week onwards. Caleb sacked 9 times in that game against the Patriots in another tough loss for the Bears team, which with their division probably eliminates them from playoff contention, considering how good the other 3 teams in there are. My sort of question is I'll start with you, Kian, because obviously you love the Bears. Is Caleb a potential draft bust, or is this Bears team just tragically bad? I mean, obviously we also saw Eberflus was sacked this week as well. So what do you think the issue is in Chicago?
Firstly, am I like some sort of Grim Reaper? Because I attended 2 practice days and both head coaches have been sacked. So, when can I go and see the Chiefs is what I'm going to say. But, yeah, draft bust, I don't know. I think it's a bit too early in someone's career to be talking about draft bust. When you get sacked 9 times in a game, how do you expect to perform? Is all I can say, really. He's got no time with the ball whatsoever. You saw in that game at Tottenham that he can be a good player, but you need to protect him, and they did protect him really well that day, and it showed. But to be honest with you, I don't know. I don't know what the issue there is. I wouldn't drop him. I don't see the point in that. You look at what the Colts have done. They dropped Flacco, and now Richardson's back in, and that's 2 weeks of development they've lost out on. So I wouldn't drop him. I don't think he's going to be a bust. No.
Max?
I'm just looking. Has Eberflus been sacked?
Yeah.
I can't see it anywhere. I've seen that they fired the offensive coordinator, Shane Waldron.
He got tweeted.
I can't find it anywhere. I've just Googled it to double
by the
check.
official NFL.
But
There he was.
the point is, the Bears are in a tough spot. Keane's cursed them, obviously, as he does with a few teams. He should set that Roma Dunze jersey on fire at this point.
He's been fine.
He needs to get out of Chicago if he wants to continue being fine.
Yeah.
I think I might have even said last week that the Bears are in a tough spot and Eberflus is on the hot seat. Still not sure if he's been sacked or not.
He's not been sacked. No,
I
don't know.
It must have been. It must have just been like a fake thing or something, because it definitely got put on the timeline the other day.
I remember it being sent in.
Well, I don't remember seeing it. That's why I had a quick check and I was like, I can't find this anywhere.
I did think they kept it quiet.
No, because James sent it to me.
Yeah.
Oh, that's weird. That's really weird. We've been lied to by someone.
Someone's lied to us.
Whoever did that, I hope you get banned on Twitter, and I hope that you deactivate.
Did you see that this happened to someone else? It was like all the sports people were talking about how Jared Goff is like 7-0 in games where he's thrown 4 or more interceptions, and that's just not true. And they were talking about it on like all the sports programs in America, and he's like 1-1 or something. It's just not true. Someone just made it up. So that's funny. I can't remember what I was saying now. Basically, the Bears are in trouble. Eberflus should probably be sacked. They've sacked Shane Waldron, the head offensive coordinator. I don't know why I said head offensive coordinator. And Caleb Williams, they can't keep him off the ground. The O-line is shocking. Caleb's not performing that well even when he is staying upright. I don't know if they should throw in Bajan. I mean, can we have him at the Browns? Can we have Virgin instead? We'll give him Jameis Winston. Yeah, I don't know. It's a weird situation. I don't know really how to describe it.
Yeah, I'm just going to throw in quick. I've just seen a stat while looking to see if he had been sacked. Eberflus in the Bears team in first quarters this season, they've only scored in 2 first quarters, and they've only got a touchdown in 1 game, which was week 5, and week 2 they had a field goal. Apart from that, they've not scored a single point in any of the first quarters of their other game.
That's rough.
Caden, sort of. I mean, what was that? Is Caleb a bust, or is this team just tragically bad?
I think Caleb's got it. He's getting it a bit harsh from the media, especially because of the way he carries being the first overall pick. But that offensive line is terrible. If they can sort that out and get a team around Caleb, then it'll be fine. He's a good quarterback. There's a reason he got drafted at the number 1 pick. And I think saying they want him dropped, I'm not sure how much truth's in that, but I think that's just absurd, because why would you want to drop a quarterback drafted at number 1 in his rookie season? Yeah, he got sacked, 9 times. That's not really down to him a lot. It's just down to the offensive line being that bad. So if they can sort that problem out, they'll be fine. And I don't know what is next for Caleb. I don't know if he's going to be as good as people had anticipated, but he's not a bad quarterback, and I do feel bad for him.
See, I saw a comparison with Caleb, and it was to Trevor Lawrence. Obviously, first overall picks, both of them came with a lot of hype from college. I saw someone say they were guaranteed surefire to be good in the NFL. I don't know about you lot, but I had definite issues with Caleb Williams coming into this draft. And I also thought back in the day that Trevor Lawrence had serious issues coming out of college as well. That could have been exposed in the NFL. So I don't think they were both surefire to be unreal players in the league. And I think he's getting a bit harsh, because he wasn't even my number 1 quarterback coming out of that class, to be honest. And I think he is a good quarterback. As you said, that Bears line is just terrible. I would like to see him put Badgen in, just so there's a first Welsh-related quarterback in the NFL. Can't imagine that's happened before. So I'd love that just for that purpose alone. But yeah, I just think that O-line especially needs sorting soon. And Eberflus somehow hasn't been sacked, but he should be by the end of this week, hopefully. And maybe this will still be relevant in a week if he has been sacked by the time they lose this week as well. Finally, a little new segment in here this week, the winners and the losers from the week. So every week from now on, we will do our winners and losers from each week. Kian, you can start us off, as you seemed like you had an interesting shout for this one.
Do you want us to all do our winners first and then all our losers, or do you just want me to
Yeah,
do 2
okay, we'll do that.
Right.
We'll do our winners first.
My winner is a man who had a terrible game. It's Jared Goff, because how do you throw 5 interceptions and still win? Someone has saved his ass there massively. So for me, it's Jared Goff. I bet he was very happy going home 5 interceptions, but at least he won. So yeah, big win. Well done, Jared.
Max?
My winners this week are slightly underrated ones. I think I'm going to go with the Cardinals. They beat on the Jets, who they've got problems, but they're on a bit of a run at the minute. The Cardinals, they've won their last 4 games. I don't think enough people are talking about it. I think they're on a bit of a run, and they could even be an outside shout to sneak into the playoffs in that division. Obviously, if the 49ers lose a couple more, the Seahawks are amazing. We saw the Rams on Monday Night Football, terrible. So I think the Cardinals are my winners this week.
Caden?
I've gone for the Steelers, because that win is near enough certified that they are going to probably win our division. I don't see the Ravens winning the division anymore. I think the Steelers are going to keep winning these games. They're going to keep kicking them field goals, as you know. They love to do that. And I've just chosen them because I think it's just a statement to beat a decent team. I know we've touched on it before, but they are a good team, and they are definitely winning our division now.
I'm going in a bit of a different angle. I'm going with my New York Giants as the biggest winners of the week, because we should actually get a good draft pick now we lost that game. To be honest, as I said, we were going into that game and we were quite heavy favourites, and I was like, I really don't want to win, because if we do win, we put ourselves in the tough spot of we're probably out of the way of getting a good draft pick now. But we're currently now projected second and Jacksonville first, which would not affect us in any way because they're 100% going to take someone we were never going to take anyway. What we do, I don't know. I think as much as we could wait for a quarterback, we can't. We just can't watch this guy anymore. Cam Ward needs to be a Giant, or any of them. I don't really care. I've seen a lot of Milrow hype. I don't really get it. I think he's quite overrated, but anyone who can throw the ball, which is better than Daniel Jones, which isn't exactly difficult, will do for me. But yeah, I think we genuinely, as much as we lost to an awful team this week, it's going to benefit us a lot in the long term because it does give us a chance to finally rebuild and give Daboll a chance to get his own quarterback. Right, we'll move on to our losers of the week. Kian, you can start off again with your loser of the week.
My loser of the week is the Manhattan Construction Company. And that is because they are the construction company that built Jerry's World in Arlington, Texas. Because
I see what's going on here.
That glare on the pitch is so bad. How, we know where the sun is. Just build blinds, tint it. I don't know. Jerry Jones and the Manhattan Construction Company are my losers of the week.
I see what's going on here. Kian thought of this joke last night when he were going to sleep, so he's proposed this winners and losers idea to us this morning, just so we can get that joke in.
Genuinely is.
Yeah. Max?
My losers of the week are the Bengals, because how are you going to play that well and still lose?
No. Yep, fair. Okay.
That's literally all I got.
Caden?
I've also gone for the Bengals because how are we going to play that well and still lose?
You know what? I guess you just leave it at that. I go with Caleb Williams because he is now getting the blame for this Bears O-line being tragically bad. He could get dropped, which is going to kill his development. So I think overall, it's just a terrible week to be Caleb Williams and a terrible week to be a Bears fan, really, because unfortunately for them, with other divisions, you might have a chance at the playoffs at their record, but with their division, they've got absolutely no hope. So, yeah, I'm going with the Bears. With Caleb Williams and partly the Bears as the losers of the week. So that's all the news covered for this week. Now we move on to our Week 11 predictions. And this week we're joined with a special guest for the first time. We're joined with Andy Davies. Hi, Andy.
Hi, mate. Hi, all. Thank you for having me on. First time on the show. Looking forward to it.
You're welcome. So we'll start off with the Thursday Night Football primetime game, the Eagles versus the Commanders. And Andy, as you knew, you can be the first one to start us off this week. What do you think for this one?
Oh, tough, isn't it? I think the Commanders, off the back of a loss, will be determined to, get back to winning ways. I think on the flip side, the Eagles, they're at home. They're equally having, they've got a decent record. But I'm going to give the Commanders a win. I just think that the Daniels train the hype train keeps going. I do think that, whilst on paper the Eagles probably have just as good as a team, I just think right now the momentum, despite the loss against the Steelers, is still there with the Commanders, and I think they'll get the win over the Eagles.
Max?
I'm going to go the Eagles this week. I think the home advantage will help them. The Commanders are coming off a loss, and the Eagles are coming off a couple of wins now, I think. I don't know what the run is that they're on. But I think, obviously, we've seen that Commanders have struggled against above 500 teams this season, and the Eagles are in good form. Saquon doing backwards hurdles over people, that's mental. I don't know how he's pulling that off. I'm going to give it to the Eagles this week.
Kian?
I really, really want to go Commanders because I do like them, but I'm going to go Eagles as well. I think that the Eagles are just currently looking like an all-round team. If that ball does get turned over by the Commanders, they could be in a bit of trouble. So, yeah, I'm going to go Eagles.
Caden?
I have just changed my prediction. Originally, I had the Eagles, but I'm going to go for the Commanders. And it's another one of those games. I have one once a week where I just feel like the results come to me. And in my head, I'm seeing
it never works.
An absolutely brilliant game. Yeah, it never worked, but I've seen the vision. Could be right. I think Jaden Daniels going to ball out against the Eagles, going to get shut out this week. And the Commanders are my prediction for this one.
Opposed to what Kian said, as a Giants fan, I really don't like the Commanders or the Eagles. It's probably not one I really want to pick either of them to win. But Max brought it up. They haven't beaten a team. Commanders haven't beaten a team over 500 this season. Eagles seemingly seem to be getting better every week. They did get their big NFC East rivalry win last week, and I think they're going to get another one this week. So I'm going to go with the Eagles to beat the Commanders and extend their very good little run of form. Next up, we got the New York Jets against the Indianapolis Colts. I'll start with Kian on this one.
I can't help but feel like I cursed them when I went and saw them. Because they just, I don't know what's going wrong. The Aaron Rodgers experiment for me needs to end very soon because it's just not working. You got all them weapons, and for some reason, something's going wrong. That being said, I do think they're going to win. I've got a really, really strange feeling about it. You can't keep losing with that offense that you've got. So, yeah, I'm going to go with the Jets. I think this could be the week. Not that they're going to mount any sort of run, but the week that they pick up a win and, all the pressure sort of dies down a little bit.
Max?
I've got the Colts. Is Joe Flacco starting, or is it Anthony Richardson this week?
Anthony Richardson is back.
I've still got the Colts. The Jets are terrible. I have no faith in the Jets whatsoever. Like Kean said, they've got weapons. They've got a good roster, and it's not coming together. And I don't think this will be the week that it does. I think this is the week that the Colts finally get a big win that they need to get as well.
Andy?
Yeah, I'm the same as Max. I'm going for a Colts win. Fun fact: this was actually meant to be originally Sunday Night Football, but it's been flexed for Chargers Bengals. It shows the state of the two teams, particularly the Jets. But yeah, I think everything Max said, I agree with. It's been terrible from the Jets, and I think the Colts. Whilst I don't agree with what they're doing by Richardson, constantly benching him and starting him, I don't think that's good for his long-term future. But I think right now, I think the weapons they've got are doing much better than the Jets are. And I think overall, this Colts team is just playing at a higher level than the Jets, albeit not much different because they haven't been that great either, in my opinion. But give me the Colts over the Jets.
Caden?
It's not a great game, if we're being honest. I think we still have no idea why the Jets are as bad as they are. It's just something wrong. And when you've got Aaron Rodgers as your quarterback, you need to be playing better than they are. But I'm taking the Colts. I think Joe Flacco is probably the quarterback I'd start in this game, but I am not the head coach of the Colts, so I could be wrong. But Anthony Richardson, yeah, we've said it a few times. Swapping Anthony Richardson out for Flacco, it's like it seems to make sense to me. But the Colts will beat the Jets, and the Jets continue to be one of the worst teams in the NFL for me based on their team and how they're underperforming.
Yeah, this is one of the ones. I thought this week was quite difficult to predict in general, but this is one of the few games I genuinely still not really sure. I didn't write a name down on my original one because I couldn't really decide. With the points made, I think I'm going to agree with the majority. I think I'm going to go with the Colts. It's just, as much as Kane said, I do agree they surely can't keep losing games, the Jets, with that roster, but I don't know. I think they might be able to because the Colts are a weird team. They can sort of turn up one week and the next week they end up being terrible again. As Andy said, I don't agree with the Anthony Richardson decision either. You either keep him in there all the time or you just make him sit for the rest of the season. Don't keep bringing him in and out because he's never going to be able to mount any form of momentum if he keeps getting dropped every 2-3 weeks. But yeah, and as Kean mentioned as well, the Rodgers experiment needs to end. It's just not worked out. It wasn't worth doing for the Jets. And, they probably sacrificed a couple of years where they could have drafted a quarterback for him, and it's just not worked. So I'm going to go with the Colts. Next up, we have the Titans against the Vikings. I'll start with Max on this one.
I've got the Vikings. I can't back the Titans. They're really bad. They're really struggling. And I think it'll continue. Will Levis came back last week and he played all right. It's Will Levis. We didn't get a funny picture this week, which is disappointing. But I'm going to take the Vikings. They come off a close win against the Jags last week where I picked the Jags, unfortunately. And I think they'll carry on the momentum that they had at the start of the season and the Vikings will win, yeah.
Andy?
I've gone for the Vikings as well. I mean, the Titans actually have the least yards allowed per game in the NFL, if I'm right in saying that. And I think that the Vikings team for me has been actually really bad in these 2 wins. They ever since the bye week, they haven't been the same team. I think even in London, they were showing signs of decline. Sam Darnold's not been the same. I mean, 3 picks, no touchdowns in his last game. And I think that they were lucky that they were playing a bad team in the Jags. I think if they were playing any good team in the NFL, they probably would have lost that game. And I think, again, they're lucky that they're playing another bad team in the Titans. So I think even with, a team that has done well defensively, yards per game allowed, I think equally, I don't think their offense has enough to really counteract that. So I think the Vikings will win. I think it'll be another sloppy game like last week, maybe like a 15-10 or a 12-7 or something. I don't think it'll be a high-scoring game. And I think, the Vikings will squeeze past, but I don't think they're at all as good as their record suggests.
Caden?
Yeah, I'm taking the Vikings as well. And it was very exciting watching the Vikings at the start of the season because they were just so good for no reason. Sam Darnold was, for another reason we don't know, one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. But they have fallen off a bit now. But they should pick up a win here. I'd be very, very shocked if they don't, because it should be a game they're winning, if we're being honest. But Vikings, yeah, not going to the Super Bowl. I'm going to keep bringing that up for you, James. But they will win. They will beat the Titans.
Yeah, they're sort of regretting that one week by week now. They've just fallen off a cliff, the Vikings. I didn't expect it. I really didn't. And obviously going behind the scenes and seeing it firsthand at their training day in London, it just seemed like a team that was together, and they just looked like they were going to keep winning games, and they haven't done. They have in a way, but they also started to struggle a lot more now. Andy mentioned it, no touchdowns for the Vikings last week, and Darnold 3 red zone interceptions, let alone just normal interceptions. You can't be doing that against teams like Jacksonville because, as Andy said, if you play a team that's actually half decent, you will lose that game quite comfortably. I think Levis is looking a bit better in the last couple of weeks. He had a decent game against the Chargers, but I think with this Vikings defense, much as it's not been great, it's still one of the better units in the NFL, I think, and against the pretty lackluster offense, they should be fine. So I'm going for a bit of a redemption week for the Vikings, and I'm going with the Vikings for a pretty comfortable win over the Titans. And Kian?
I completely agree with what both James and Andy said about the Vikings being pretty poor in their last couple of wins, but sort of scraping through. I think Darnold's got longer now because I don't know if anyone read about JJ McCarthy. He's injured himself rehabbing. So they don't know how much longer that's going to take, if that needs another surgery. I feel so bad for the guy, especially doing it in pre-season as well. But look, that was back to the Darnold, the NFL Darnold that we sort of know last week. Very much underperforming. But look, he's got more time as that number one, so he needs to prove himself again, like he was at the start of the season. I think this is a big game for him and a big game for the Vikings. They should win. They're a lot better than the Titans. So yeah, Vikings for me. I'll take them.
Move on to the Saints versus the Browns. Max, I'll obviously let you start this off as the native Browns fan in here.
Coming off a bye week, that might help. I don't know. The bye week's been good for me because I've been able to focus on the 13-0 Cleveland Cavaliers, by the way. Come on, the Cavs. But no, I've got the Browns. I think we might. I don't know. The Saints, obviously, they went on a bit of a losing streak. Was it 7 losses? And then they beat the Falcons. I think we might just be able to pull something out of the bag in like a close win, like a field goal from Dustin Hopkins to get us the win. I'm clutching onto straws here. I'll take anything, please. Can we win a game?
Andy?
Yeah, I've gone for the Browns. I think this is to me the worst game of the week. I don't think either team have been any great mistakes. I just don't see any way this game being any good. But I think the Saints, they got the win. They got the win against the Falcons. That was it. But I think that might have been an outlier. I think six losses in the last 7 games. But the Browns haven't been great either. But I just think ultimately it may be a day for Nick Chubb, maybe a day for David and Njoku. But I just think that it's. I think Winston's career has been 1 week good, 1 week bad, and I think he had a difficult game last time out. And I think this game he may come back to being like we saw against the Ravens a few weeks ago. So. Yeah, I'm going to give the Browns a win, but I think it'll be ugly.
Kian?
Yeah, I've got to agree. I'm going with the Browns as well. Nick Chubb's been back for a few weeks now. I think that he's going to start kicking on because he's still Nick Chubb. Jameis Winston is one of the most inconsistent quarterbacks in the league. It's quite hard to actually root against him because, that season where he threw 30 touchdowns, 30 interceptions was one of the funniest things I've ever seen. And yeah, I've just got a feeling, and I'd like the Browns to win because it would move us close to that number 1 pick as a Raiders fan. So yeah, I'm taking the Browns, which feels weird because they're a terrible, terrible football team.
This is brilliant. Everyone's picking the Browns. It's never happened.
I'll just come in now. I'm going to end this run of the Browns. I'm picking the Saints. As Kian said, I would quite actually like the Browns to win as a Giants fan because they've also put us close to the number 1 pick. But yeah, Saints. It was a weird one against the Falcons. They played well. I mean, I also shout MVS 100+ yards and 2 touchdowns. I don't know where that came from, but fair enough. Big game from him. Big game for Derek Carr as well after a pretty lackluster sort of run of games. I think, as you said, 7 losses in a row is just painful after their pretty good start, all things considered. But I think with the momentum the Saints can take from that Falcons game and the Browns having a bye week. Obviously, not bringing much momentum even if they weren't on a bye week, but still just playing the game, being able to win as well. I think the Saints should be able to scrape this one, and the Browns need a new quarterback as soon as physically possible.
Please.
Caden?
I've gone for the Saints as well. I think it's a game that both teams deep down they want to lose because they both want that good draft pick. And I can just see the Saints winning it more than the Browns because, if I'm being honest, I'm biased and I don't like the Browns. It's not like they're really... actually, they are closer to us than anyone in our division, so it's us two fighting for the playoffs at this point at the bottom. But the Saints will get a win. And, yeah, I don't really have much else to say on this game. It's just going to be a very, very weird game.
Can I just touch on something about the Saints dead fast?
Yeah.
Derek Carr, for me, is like the definition of mediocre, but he'll always win you enough games to move you away from a good draft pick. I mean, I saw it for a long time in Oakland and then, the year in Vegas as well. He will always win you enough games. So even if they lose this, then they probably don't want to lose because they're never going to end up in that high area because he just wins you enough games and it's really infuriating. So yeah, sorry, that's what I forgot to say it in my little bit.
We'll move on to the Lions versus the Jags. I mean, I'll start this one off. I'm quite nervous. Caden agreed with me because that normally means my prediction is going to be wrong. But I didn't mention it before, but this week in our predictions little leaderboard, I'm on my bye week regardless, so mine don't count. I'm not going to try and go edgy and go for the massive, ridiculous shout. The Lions are going to win this game. Another week without Trevor Lawrence now been confirmed for the Jags, so Mac Jones back in at quarterback. I think with this Lions defense, it's going to be a nightmare for him. I mean, Lions we touched on it earlier in the podcast, but 5 interceptions and you still win a game against one of the better teams in the league. It just shows that, that championship potential to go all the way. And I can't really see the Lions losing another game this season, in all honesty. So I'm definitely going to pick the Lions in this one. Caden.
So James didn't want to go for the edgy prediction. So this No, I'm kidding. But the Lions by quite some way. I think could be the biggest win of the season in the NFL. I think the Lions, they mean business, as James said and said earlier. It's quite rare that you can throw 5 interceptions and still manage to win the game against a good team as well. So the Lions will not stop here, especially against the Jags, let's be honest. So a big win for the Lions incoming.
Kian?
Yeah, I see no way the Lions don't win. I was quite actually impressed with the Jags, their second game in London. But then again, it was against a very poor Patriots team, and they've just not really kicked on from that either. I think we need to pray for Mac Jones because he could get absolutely battered this game. We might see like an NFL record sacks. He could be absolutely battered. Yeah, Lions, and I think it's going to be by at least 20.
Andy?
Yeah, I'm Lions as well. I mean, the NFL is known for these shock results. I mean, Chiefs Raiders last year is the one I can think off the top of my head. It's amazing that Jags might be on, at the moment, they're projected to have their third number one overall pick in 5 years, which is insane, really. But no, this would be the easiest one to pick out of all of them. And yeah, for me, easy win for the Lions.
Max?
I'm not picking the Jags again this week. It didn't work well last week. Yeah, I think the Lions are going to want to tidy up the game a bit after a bit of a scrappy game against the Texans, especially in that first half. And I think they're going to dominate. I think we're going to see like left tackles catching passes again. It's going to be back to the crazy Ben Johnson plays. And yeah, the Lions will get a big win here, I think.
Moving on to, I think for me, this was probably one of the hardest games to predict of the week. We've got the Steelers against the Ravens. And you nod your head there, so I'll let you start this one.
I'm going to give the Ravens a win. It sounds a bit crazy because I think that the Ravens' defense is so bad against the pass. I think you could see the likes of George Pickens have a field day. But I've had that thing on my show every week. We have predictions, and I've not once, apart from maybe week 3 against the Cowboys, gone against the Ravens. I think every week I've gone for the Ravens to win a game, and they're my Super Bowl pick before the season started. I think it's Lamar's year, and I think they'll get the win here. You know, Steelers defense, I think both teams actually are really good at stopping the runs. I think we won't see. I don't think Harris or Henry have a great game, but I think we'll see loads of Zay Flowers and George Pickens have a great game. And I think that'll come down to ultimately who's the better quarterback. And I think you can't deny that Lamar Jackson is that on course potentially for his third MVP. I think, everything right now is with the Ravens, and I think they will. Yeah, it'll be a great game. I can see it being something like 34-28, and I think the Ravens will ultimately get the job done in Pittsburgh.
Max?
I've looked at the Ravens differently since we managed to beat them with Jameis Winston under center. I just don't see them as the same scary team that they were before. And the fact that they've had two very, very close games with the Bengals makes me think that the Steelers might just be able to get it done, as much as that pains me because I despise them towel swinging dickheads. But I'm going to pick the Steelers. I think Russ has got it. I think Russ has got it in the bag. I think he can pull it off.
Kian?
I'm with Andy on this one, but we also beat the Ravens, and I'm still scared of them. That is just they're such a good offense, man. I can't overlook them. I find it very hard to root against Lamar. Last year's MVP could easily be this year's MVP again. Zay Flowers is having a year, and I'm going to go and put a fiver on the score that Andy said now, just because if I don't, I'm going to be really upset if that comes in. So there you go, Ravens for me.
Caden?
Unfortunately, as well, I'm going to back the Steelers. I don't really want to back the Steelers, but there's just such a buzz around that team at the moment, and I feel like if they get a win against the Ravens, then they are genuine contenders to do well in the playoffs. And I really don't want them to, but it is the sad reality that the Steelers are a good team again, and we're going to get a great clip of George Pickens doing something ridiculous, of course. That's always a highlight of when the Steelers do well. So Steelers by 3, I think it'll be a close game.
I mentioned it earlier, but I do think Mike Tomlin deserves that shout in that Coach of the Year debate. They've done unbelievably well, all things considered, with that roster. But as I put it in my notes, this is almost impossible to call for me because this could go either way. Like, I would not be surprised if either of these teams win this game. I think Ravens keep winning these sort of tough games against tough opponents, and it's not by much, but they still win the games. And obviously, when you're playing a divisional game, that 100% factors into it because there's never really many easy divisional games unless you play against the Cowboys. But I think I'm going to go with the Ravens just to beat the Steelers. And I keep changing my mind on this one, but I'm going to say it now. I'm going to go with the Ravens. I think it's just Derrick Henry is terrifying. And him and Lamar as a duo is just insanity. I don't know how you stop it. I feel for any defensive coordinator who's got to try and stop that sort of read option between them two because it's ridiculous. But I'm going to go with the Ravens with a very close win. And I think potential game of the week potential, but I think we'll have another one down the line in these predictions.
Derrick Henry is terrifying, but that picture of him that I saw the other day was arguably more terrifying. That was shocking.
We'll move on to the Patriots against the Rams. I'll start this one off. This is another one where I really struggled, and I think for a lot of people they might not have, but I think the Rams are such a weird team for me. One week they can turn up and they can absolutely destroy a team, like they did to the Vikings. They played really well. Then they play against the Dolphins and they're really poor, not one touchdown in that game. I think Drake May is the real deal for New England. I really do think that's their franchise guy, 100%. I think he could arguably be one of, if not the best quarterbacks in this class in the future. He's got real potential to be great in this league. I think Rams are probably desperation time. If they want to have any chance of the playoffs, they've got to win this game. But I'm going to go with the Patriots. I don't know if it's an upset as such, but I think if Drake May can continue the way he's been playing, I think, and if the Rams play like they did last week, I think they're going to struggle massively. I think the Patriots could steal it. Kian, we'll go to you next.
I do really like Drake May. I think he's been very good since he came in and replaced Brissett. I don't know why he didn't start, to be honest. At the start of the season, it felt a bit weird at the time. It feels even weirder now. But I think this is a huge game for the Rams, like you said. If they want to make any sort of run towards the playoffs, it needs to begin on Sunday. And I do have them winning, to be fair. I've got a feeling. Look, that game on Monday was a weird game. There was so many turnovers, so much stuff was happening. I mean, you had Tua tackling him with his head. That's the last man you want to do that. So, I'm going to go for the Rams because I don't think it'll be a game as strange as it was on Monday.
Max?
I was not impressed by the Rams at all on Monday night. They just didn't inspire me whatsoever. And I backed the Patriots last week. I'm another big believer in Drake May. He was my favourite quarterback coming out of this class. although he didn't go first. Unfortunately, we knew that wasn't going to happen. But I backed them last week against the Bears and they won, so I'm going to back them again. I think they can beat the Rams in a possibly close game, maybe like 20 points to 17 or something.
Andy?
I've gone for the Rams. I think that you look at the game against us on Monday night, I think that there was a couple of turnovers. There was the fumble from Kieran Williams. And I think there's a few mistakes they made where if they had made those mistakes, they could have won that game against the Dolphins. I think it wasn't as bad as maybe the score suggests. And I think that there's definitely, I've seen the Vikings game recently where Stafford balled out. And I think that the Patriots team is got a bad record, but they're going out fighting in games. I think that will make it, I think, a really close game. Maybe the closest of the week. I think this could be a 3-score game. But I just think ultimately, I think if you got Cup and Puka Nacua both healthy and firing, I think that's enough for me. And I think Jared First had a great play on the Monday night game. He's sort of getting better each week, and I think we could see a game where he once again steals the show. And I think the Patriots team, I think it's still bad, so I'm going to give the Rams the win.
Caden?
Yeah, I'm going to give the Rams a win as well. They looked really poor against the Dolphins, if I'm being honest. But there is a good team in there. When you've got Matthew Stafford, obviously not as good as he was when he was winning the Super Bowl, but he's got weapons like Cooper Kupp still, and Puka Nacua is obviously a really good receiver as well. I think they are good enough to be in the playoffs, but not this year because they missed, what was it, 3 or 4 games without any good receivers or something? Or like just 3. So that was obviously going to be hard to get past. But I think we'll get a win against the Patriots. Drake May playing well, but it's nothing amazing yet. It could be in maybe a couple of years. Definitely a franchise quarterback for them there. But yeah, I'll take the Rams. I think very close game again.
Next up, we have the Dolphins versus the Raiders. Now, normally I'd give this straight to Kian, but as Andy is our guest predictor, as you probably know if you're watching us, he is a Dolphins fan. I'm going to let Andy start this one off. What do you think for this one?
Easy peasy, Dolphins win, baby. It's by far our easiest game on paper this season. Raiders haven't been great, and I think when you play against teams like the Cardinals and the Rams, other teams recently, they've got a lot more wins, and I think the Raiders for me have been really bad. I think they've shown to show that maybe don't always go for the interim as your full-time head coach. I think it's been really, really bad for me, and I think whether it's been Minshew or O'Connell or even Desmond Ridder hasn't been great for me. So I think despite our struggles, despite having 3 wins, I think we will ease to victory here, and I think this could be. We saw Anthony Weaver's defense have a great game on Monday night, and I think that's going to be the same story again. They're going to torment Gardner Minshew, and it's going to be an easy 21-point win.
Kian, I can't imagine you're going to disagree with all too much of that.
No, I hope it's all correct, if I'm being honest, because I really want a good quarterback in this draft. Not that I think there are many. But our only positive coming into this is that we sacked Luke Getsy, because he was not a good coordinator. I'm really quite sure that AP is still there. If I'm being honest, I don't think he's a great leader, but he's not a very good coach. And he's trying to call plays and stuff. It's not happening. Minshew's been announced that he's starting again. I don't want to watch it, if I'm being honest. I'd rather just chuck Ridder in. I know he's not great, but just something different. But then maybe Minshew's our best chance of losing. And we really need a good draft pick because it's been years and years of pain. We've had one good year and we lost in the wild card round. So I'm fed up watching us and I hope the Dolphins win, and I'm picking the Dolphins as well.
Max?
I've got a point to make to Andy. He said that this might be the easiest game on paper for the Dolphins this season. You do play the Browns later in the season, so that might be the easiest game. But, I think the Dolphins should easily walk this one. They've had some tough opponents recently, the Bills, the Cardinals, 2 really good teams at the minute, and I think they'll take them some momentum from Monday night and carry it on against an easy opponent in the Raiders, who are really struggling, and they need to do something next season if they want to get anywhere.
I'm going to go with the Dolphins as well. I think they've been very impressive, since the return of Tua. It's a completely different team, I think, with him at quarterback. Obviously, we knew with whoever was in there, Huntley or whoever they decided to throw out there. was not really going to be the same. I think people now may appreciate him more for what he is now, seeing what the Dolphins are like without him. I think the Dolphins need to be perfect if they want any chance of sneaking into a playoff position, which I'm not sure they will. But if they do, they've got to win pretty much every game for the rest of the season. And I think it'll start this week, unfortunately, or fortunately for Kian, whoever he wants to view it. Yeah, Minshew back doesn't really change anything for me. They haven't really got a solid quarterback, whoever they decide to throw out there every week. They can't maintain anything because they keep changing the quarterback every week. So I'm going to go with the Dolphins doing this one. Caden?
Yeah, I've got the Dolphins as well. I think there's no way that the Raiders win this one, unfortunately. Minshew mania, it's been and gone. It's never coming back. Dolphins impressed me on Monday night. The Dolphins impressed me. So
next up, we've got the Bears versus the Packers. Now, I'll start this one off. Turns out Eberflus, as we said earlier in the podcast, that hasn't actually been fired as much as me and Kian had thought he had been. He's still there through some form of a miracle. He probably should have been fired, but I'm going 100% with the Packers with this one. That Bears O-line is 9 sacks to Caleb Williams. Unrest in the whole locker room situation. I think the veterans want Caleb benched. Obviously, the coach isn't going to do it, I don't think, because you don't want to do what, as Andy said earlier with Richardson in Indianapolis, you don't want to take them out and keep putting them back in and ruin the development. So I think he'll still be there, but he's going to have a tough game against a good Packers side, and I'm going to go with the Packers to win this one. Caden.
Yeah, I've got the Packers as well. This feels like a straightforward one again. I'm a big fan of Jordan Love, as I've said many times. I'm a big fan of the Packers. So hopefully they can put up a decent scoreline against the Bears, maybe save the Bears season as well. Just cause a bit of confusion, maybe get a few people sacked. You never know what could happen. But yeah, easy Packers win for me.
Kian?
I think I'm right in saying the Packers have the longest active winning streak over an opponent, with that being the Bears, in the NFL. I think it's something stupid like 10 games. I don't think it's going to stop. The Bears are really bad, and it's painful for me because I picked them as a second team and they've not won since. So I think it might actually just be me. But yeah, I'm gonna go for the Packers. I do like them. I think they're a good team, and that Bears team is just in disarray. I think if they lose, Eberflus probably should go, and yeah, that's probably it for me. As long as Roma Dunze has a good game, I don't care. So yeah, I'm going Packers.
Andy?
Yeah, Packers as well. I mean, Bears have got top 10 pass defense this season, but I think the Packers have got top 10 passing offense. Whether it's Jaden Reed or Devontae Wicks or Tucker Kraft or Christian Watson or Josh Jacobs, it's two weapons for a team that's middle of the road this season, or 4-5 this year. There's no way they stop that. Packers win this by about 10, 15 points.
Max?
I am going to go with the Packers to make it a sweep. I did want to say that this was a really easy decision, and it was. I was always picking the Packers. But, it's at Soldier Field. It's a big divisional matchup. If the Bears lose this, they're pretty much eliminated from the playoffs in my mind. But like we said, they're in disarray. The Packers, like Andy was just saying, they've got so many weapons: Wicks, Dobbs, Kraft, Jacobs, the list goes on. And their defense is one of the best in the league. I think it's scary. So I think the Packers should win by at least 10.
Next up, we have the 49ers versus the Seahawks. I believe it's at home for the 49ers. Kian, you can start us off this time.
I'm going for the 49ers. I'm not really a big fan of that Seahawks team. To be honest, I don't think it's going anywhere. There's not really anything to grow with the quarterback. He's been in the league for a very long time, Geno Smith. So, you're not even looking forward to the future, really. I imagine they sat on their bye week thinking, shit, we actually managed to lose to the Giants at one stage this season. Yeah, I'm going to go for the Niners. They did look a little bit better last week. Pearsall's burst onto the scene, obviously after, what happened in summer is huge for him to actually have a decent game as well. And McCaffrey's back. So, yeah, Niners for me. I'm not a big fan of the Seahawks at all.
Caden?
Yeah, I'm going to take the 49ers. It's just so big them having Christian McCaffrey back. It's like it's more of a buzz around the team. It's the team that was in the Super Bowl last year. You get what sort of energy that they are one of the best teams in the NFL. So I think it'll be a big game for CMC. I think he'll do really good numbers like he did in his last game. So it's the 49ers for me, and I imagine that's probably going to be a lot of people's pick.
Yeah, I mean, fantasy owners who had the first pick in the draft, as I did, rejoice as CMC's finally back for the 49ers. Yeah, I mean, that running back room is ridiculously talented now because we saw the breakout with Mason, and even Garendo, sort of when he came in for the last couple of games, was really good as well. I think, Niners came through that tough game against Tampa, never an easy team to beat, and they won it, albeit by a field goal. But I think Moody had a really weird game because he missed 2 field goals and then ended up scoring the winning one. So I suppose George Kittle said about his whole superstition about what he doesn't watch the field goals or something. I saw because when he doesn't watch the field goals, they end up scoring them. So I'm assuming he didn't watch that one. Seahawks, 5 of their last 6 games have ended in defeat. They showed a bit of promise against the Rams, albeit the Rams aren't great. I think, I'm going to go with the 49ers as well. Pretty straightforward one for me. Andy?
Yeah, Niners as well. I think everything you boys have said, I sort of resonate with. McCaffrey being back there, only 1 win behind the Cardinals, or maybe the same win as the Cardinals, the NFC West, and to do all that without McCaffrey, I think this is the time of year where they're going to start to get hot. Like we saw the Patriots for many years, get hot around mid-season, down the stretch into the playoffs. And I think he's back at the right time, got involved a fair amount in his first game back last week. So I think they're going to keep rolling, and they've got a team, the Seahawks, that haven't been great really since week 3. And even those 3 games they won to go 3-0 were against some pretty bad and beat-up teams. So for me, this is quite an easy one. Niners win.
And Max?
I'll make it a sweep. Niners win. If they didn't have CMC back, it might have been a bit closer. It's a tough divisional matchup. This is always quite an entertaining game between the Seahawks and the Niners. The Niners went into Seattle and won the first time around. Maybe the Seahawks come into Levi's and do it, but I don't see that happening now that they've got the full firing offense back. And like Andy just said, I think this is the time of year where they're going to go on a bit of a run, maybe pick up 5 or 6 wins on the trot.
Next up, we have, this is another one that I found quite difficult with recent form of the Falcons. It's the Broncos against the Falcons. I believe it is at Mile High. So could be an interesting one, this. Max, as you started that one last, you can go first this time.
I've got the Broncos in this one. They just come off a very close loss against the Chiefs. Obviously, they were nearly the team to stop the reign of terror that this horrible, horrible franchise are on. I think the Falcons losing to the Saints last week it was a shocking one for me. I think I like the Falcons are a good team, and they shouldn't have lost that game. But I think if the Saints can beat them, the Broncos definitely can, and that's my thought process on this one. I think Bro Nix is going to have another good game, and I'm going to give it to Denver.
Andy?
Yeah, I got Denver as well. The Falcons have been very hit and miss, very inconsistent. I mean, they go out and beat the Buccaneers in that overtime thriller, and then 2 weeks later they lose heavily to the Seahawks, and then they go out and beat the Bucs and the Cowboys, and then lose to the Saints. So you can't really ever trust the Falcons, I don't think, this season. I think they'll still win the NFC South because I think the Godwin injury is going to be a killer to the Buccaneers. But at the same time, I think the Broncos they've really surprised me how good they've been, especially on defense. I think Bo Nix is growing more and more into his own. He had the touchdown he caught from Cortland Sutton a few weeks ago. They were ahead of a touchdown, I think it was to Sutton against the Chiefs. They almost won that game, should have won that game. And I think, they'll, at home as well, get this win.
Kian?
I'm going on the opposite flip. I think it's probably because I'm a little bit biased, if I'm being honest. But when you look at the Falcons' losses this year, they've not bounced back with a win straight away. So, there's clearly a good mentality in that team. Also worth noting that the Broncos, the games they've won, only one of them has been a decently good team, and that was the Buccaneers. The rest have been all games you expect them to win. But yeah, I mean, their defense is very, very good. But I don't know. I've just got a feeling about the Falcons. They've lost the last game, but look, they've bounced back every time they've lost. Every time they've lost, they've won either 2 or 3 games on the bounce. So I've got a feeling they're going to bounce back again, and I just quite like them, to be honest. So yeah, Falcons.
Kid?
I'm taking the Falcons as well. I do quite like the Falcons. I think they do look good, but as Andy said, you can't really trust them to get a win. But then, as also Kian said, they've also been bouncing back from these losses and getting multiple wins after. But I just feel like the Falcons, They are a better side than the Broncos. Broncos have definitely exceeded a lot of expectations. I think Bo Nix especially, he's been great, and the defense has been amazing as well. So they're definitely a good team, but I do think the Falcons do have the advantage over them, and I think they will win.
Another one for me where I struggled a lot to decide. I haven't written one down. This was sort of me just going to decide based off what was said. I think Bo Nix was unbelievable against the Chiefs. I've said it already, but I really do think that's probably the best game in his career so far, and was, mightily unlucky not to win that due to the Chiefs, whatever's going on there with some magic, how they keep winning these games. But the Falcons losing to the Saints, I think, could be a bad sign for them. As Andy said about the whole division thing, I think they've got to be careful now with Mike Evans. I don't know if he's off IR now, but if he is, then that's a big boost for the Bucs. And they've been playing well without him. So I think if you throw him back into the frame, there's definitely a late challenge from the Bucs to win that division. So they've got to be careful. But I think that Broncos defense just continues to perform, and I'm gonna go with the Broncos to win this one. I think if they can just hold off the Falcons, which it's been done very, not much this season, but enough times for them to lose a couple of games. And I just think it's enough for the Broncos if Bo Nix can continue his form he's on, proving basically everyone wrong with what I think the stance was on him in the draft. For me, he's probably been the fourth best quarterback, which isn't exactly a bad thing when you consider I'd probably have May Daniels and Caleb, I don't know, probably still above him.
I think he's been better than Caleb.
Yeah, I think there's definitely an argument for it, especially in the last couple of weeks, that he could even be the top 3 quarterback coming out of this class, which, many people would have thought you were absolutely mental to say Bo Nix would be having a better season than Caleb Williams when we got to week 11, but I'm going to go with the Broncos to win this one. Next up, for me, not only potential game of the week, but potential game of the season. The Buffalo Bills against the Kansas City Chiefs, the unbeaten Chiefs versus, I believe, the 8-2 Bills. I believe it's in Buffalo as well. A big chance for Josh Allen to cause a little upset here. Kian, you can start us off.
The unbeaten Chiefs are going to be unbeaten for not much longer. I'm taking the Bills. I've not really got much to back it up, apart from the fact that, like I mentioned earlier on in the show, that the Chiefs are just winning ugly. And I'm not sure how sustainable that is. I mean, clearly very, because they're 9-0. But I'm not, for the rest of the season, I'm not sure how sustainable it is. The Bills, they are a good team. And what I think is going to happen, and I'll give you a little prediction for the season here, the Bills will win this one, and then the Chiefs will then beat them in the playoffs again, because the Bills cannot beat them in the playoffs. So, yeah, I'm going to take the Bills. I just think that this Chiefs reign of whatever it is cannot carry on for much longer. They're not playing as well as they have been in previous years. So, yeah, Bills.
Max?
I've also got the Bills because this Chiefs reign of terror, that's the word you're looking for, Keane, terror. It has to end. And I think if anyone in this league can end it, it's the freak athlete that is Josh Allen. And he is literally him throwing to, I don't know, Keon Coleman, Killer Shakir, Dalton Kincaid, someone, just throw it to anyone. He's got to do this somehow. Please beat the Chiefs. I hate the Chiefs.
Andy?
I've gone for the Bills as well. I mean, this Bills team has caused me more heartache than any other team as a Dolphins fan. I mean, last 2 years especially. So every bird on body is telling me not to cheer on the Bills, but I'm going to have to, because the only thing we have as a franchise, the Dolphins, is that 1972 Dolphins team that went unbeaten the entire season. And I think that I want to see on Sunday night the remaining members of that team lifting their champagne bottles like every year, clinking the glass and celebrating that they still remain the only team to go unbeaten. I think exactly what Kean said. I think that the Broncos game and the Buccaneers game, they could have lost both very easily. I think the coin toss won the game in a way against Buccaneers, and then they really should have lost that game against the Broncos with the blocked field goal. So I think it is unsustainable. I think that it's the Bills or the Steelers that are going to end this run for me, and I think it will end here in Buffalo. It will be a Tyler Bass field goal with 4 seconds left to win the game and to end this Chiefs streak.
Caden?
I've gone for the Bills as well. And it's just because what other team are going to beat the Chiefs in the regular season? Playoffs is a different story, but Josh Allen is the man that's going to show Mahomes how to be a quarterback and how to win a game without this Taylor Swift black magic, as Kieran said earlier. Josh Allen, I won't go as far as freak athlete, just very good athlete. And he's going to be the man that's going to take the Chiefs down and end their perfect season.
He also has, sorry to interrupt, he also has the most wins against Mahomes in Mahomes' career. He's 3-1 against him in the regular season, but sadly for Josh Allen, he's 0-2 against him in the postseason.
I think Keane's prediction might be quite accurate, to be fair.
Yeah.
I really, really want to say the sweep for the
Do it.
Bills, but I can't
Do
do it. I just can't bet against the Chiefs, and I really want to see them lose this game. I think the whole world, apart from Chiefs fans, wants to see them lose this game. I think Buffalo's gonna have the most fans it's ever had on a game ever because everyone's gonna want to see them win this. But I just, as I said, it's a big chance for Allen to get that revenge for obviously the playoff nightmares they've had against the Chiefs. But the Chiefs just look unbeatable, and you think even that Broncos game where they were beaten, that field goal to win the game, they're beaten team, and they still come out with the win. I just think this is a type of game where Mahomes is going to show up and prove why he should be, or why he is still the best quarterback in this league, regardless of how his season's been. And unfortunately, I think the Chiefs are going to move to 10-0. And at that point, as you said, I think the only way they slip up this season, it'll be a game you don't expect. I think it'll be a team like the Raiders who is going to end up coming there and just somehow scraping a little field goal win against them. I don't think it'll be a team like the Bills that do it, because they'll turn up in these games and then they'll maybe get complacent against someone like the Raiders, we just said. But yeah, I'm going to go with the Chiefs, unfortunately, to continue their streak. Caden, can start this one off. The Chargers against your Cincinnati Bengals.
Yeah, it's a hard one for me. Also, just to add, I can't believe James picking the Chiefs is the edgy prediction of the week.
I know.
It's bizarre. But we need to win this game. There's no wiggle room anymore. If we don't win this game, then there is not a chance we're making the playoffs, because it can still happen. But the Chargers, they're impressing me this season. I don't think anyone expected them to be as good as they have been. But it's going to be a very hard game for us. Burrow just needs to play like he does. Him and Chase, that link up is just unbelievable. And the defense is where it'll go wrong. So we need someone to just step up. And even if we have one less touchdown scored against us than we do in most games, then we win. Because that seems to be how it's going every week for us now. But I do think we'll win this one. And I do think it'll be a deserved win.
I'm going to go next. And we'll get on to this later because we have a little question at the end of our predictions. But I really like the Chargers. I think Justin Herbert is being seriously overlooked in some of these top quarterbacks this season conversations. And I think Jim Harbaugh is also definitely in that Coach of the Year bracket as well. I think they're going under the radar for how well they've actually done, considering if you look at that receiver room, it is terrible. You generally could probably rank it 32 or 32 for receivers. Quentin Johnson as your one isn't good, but thank God for them. Ladd McConkey's turned up and has been a godsend for them. He's been great. I think the Bengals, we said they score a lot, but they can't defend. And the Chargers score a lot, but I think they've got one of the top 5 unit defensively in this league. And I think if they can just shut down the Bengals, which we've seen, even we as the Giants somehow managed to shut down the Bengals for most of our game against them. If we can do it, anyone can do it. So I'm going to go with the Chargers to win this one, and I don't think it'll be that close. I think they were to shut down that Bengals offense to be one of the first teams to properly sort of cancel out that really good offense. Kian.
Yeah, I actually agree with you. I've got the Bengals written down, but Herbert's playing at such a high level and being let down by his receivers, bar Ladd McConkey. And Harbaugh was always going to be that coaching pick of the season, that off-season move that was going to be the best one. I was really upset that we didn't have a look at him. There's loads of rumors about it, but it just never happened. And he went to a rival as well, which made it even worse. The Bengals just seem to be unlucky this season. And I don't know when the luck's going to change. I'm going to go Chargers, because how long can Herbert play at this level and the receivers not turn up as well? It surely can't keep happening. So yeah, Chargers for me. A bit of a strange one. I didn't think you'd agree with me as well, James, but yeah, there we go.
Max?
I think Herbert is being overlooked because he's not as involved as a lot of people would probably like him to be, especially if you're a Chargers fan. It's a very run-heavy offense. You've got 25 carries between J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards last week, and then Justin Herbert also had 9 carries, according to SofaScore, which is he only threw 5 more times than he ran. He also got a rushing touchdown, so fair play. But I think the Chargers are a pretty good team. They're 6-3 going into this, and the Bengals, like Ian said, they're unlucky. They keep losing these close games. I think this will be another one of those close games where the Bengals lose out to a good Chargers team who are within a shout of making the playoffs, by the way.
Andy?
Yeah, sorry, Kate. No, I'm going for the Chargers as well. I love what they're doing. I mean, they've got top 10 defense this season. I think the least points allowed, but the Bengals have the fourth most points allowed. Dobbins is a top 10 running back this season in terms of touchdowns and yards. He's been really impressive. I've actually really liked Quentin Johnson. I mean, 5 touchdowns, leads the league in touchdowns this season. And their offense is top 10 for run and pass yards as well. So I think for me, this Chargers team, I think is a sneaky outsider bet to win the AFC. I genuinely think that the way they're playing with the coaching setup they've got, how good the defense has been, I think I wouldn't be shocked if I've seen them playing an Arrowhead in the title game. I think it's a long shot. I think there's teams better. I think the Ravens and Chiefs are better, but I think the Chargers, for me, are doing something really, really good there. And I think with Jim Harbaugh there, I think they're a really good team. I think the Bengals, if they were 7-2, Burrow would be MVP for me. I think he's playing the best, I think, of all the quarterbacks this year. I think it's just for him. The defense can't stop teams scoring points. So for me, yeah, Chargers win this. I think it'll be a good game. I think it'll be the Chargers win, but I think it could be one of those ones where it's like back and forth, 31-30 or 25-24 something. I think it'll be a close game, but I think, the Chargers get the win.
Andy just accidentally answered our question from before he came on.
Yeah. We did ask about would Burrow be MVP if the Bengals were so bad. So yeah, quite weird you brought that one up. But yeah, we did speak about that earlier on. But yeah, I think I agree with everything you said there. Finally, for once, as the Giants run a bye week, the Cowboys can take the reins of the laughingstock of the NFC East as they play the Texans. I'll just get mine out of the way. The Texans are winning this easily. I just love seeing the Cowboys fail. I really do. It's just great to see. It's deserved. Finally, I don't know how McCarthy's still head coach. I don't know what Jerry Jones is even planning on doing. As Kean said earlier, they haven't even built the stadium right because they can't see on certain points where the sun is. The Texans, they had a tough loss against the Lions, but I don't think it's anything to be particularly worried about. It's the Lions. Basically, everyone's lost the Lions this season. I just think the Cowboys blown out at home again by the Eagles. They're at home this week again, and it's just set for another big win for the team they're playing against. I think that's going to be the Texans this week. Kian?
Yeah, I think Texans as well. I mean, Dak's out for the season now, is he? I think I'm right in saying that.
Yes, season-ending hamstring surgery.
You've got Cooper Rush or Trey Lance. You're not going to win many games with them two. I'm sorry. So yeah, I'm going to go for the Texans. I do like the Texans. Like you say, look, they lost to the Lions, but they turned that ball over 5 times. Something's gone right there against a team that's been very dominant this season. They had a chance to win that game. They only got beat by a walk-off field goal. So yeah, they're a good team, the Texans, and I think they're probably going to win this one. I would be very shocked to see the Cowboys win, which is funny because Jerry Jones just stepped down and let someone else be the GM because you can't do it anymore. I'm sorry.
Andy?
Yeah, to quote Jerry Jones, I'm all in on the Texans winning this game. I just, it's just been terrible. I don't think at this point, just give Trey Lance a chance. I think Cooper Rush was really poor against the Eagles, and I think I would love to see Trey Lance get in there and have a go because I think he deserves at least a chance. I think he was unlucky, the Niners, with what happened with the injury and Brock Purdy coming in. So for me, I'd love to see him get the chance. I think maybe he will if they play like they did against the Eagles. I can see potentially him being benched for Trey Lance. But this Cowboys team, I think I want to put a pattern to get a win out of nowhere because the Texans haven't been great in recent weeks. They should have won both the games against the Jets and Lions. Shot themselves in the foot both times. I think they will get the win. But with that O-line for the Texans, I think Mike Parsons could be the key to this game. And again, the Cowboys could be the shocker who can get the win, but no, I'm going to give the Texans the victory.
And as you said about Trey Lance, I'd just like to point out, I believe he's younger than Jaden Daniels. I think he's one of the youngest quarterbacks in the league still. So I think it's quite outrageous that maybe he's not really getting a chance when he's still really young. He's been written off completely. He's not going to have a career, but he's still really young. Could definitely form something if he gets some games with this Cowboys team. We'll move on to Max.
Yeah, James and Andy have just collectively taken the words straight out of my mouth before I could say them. Trey Lance deserves a chance. That didn't mean for that to rhyme, but it did. I think he's just so young, and what happened in San Francisco was really unlucky. If Brock Purdy wasn't a freak athlete out of nowhere, Trey Lance could still be there. Who knows? However, the Texans, I really like them. The defense is strong. They got Jalen Petrie. He's incredible. Aziz Al-Shaair, Derek Stingley, really good secondary, and I think the Cowboys' offense is going to let them down, especially with no Dak. I think if their defense can play well, they can hold it close, but I don't think the defense will be enough to win the game because I can't see them scoring many.
And Caden to finish it off.
Yeah, I think this will be a straightforward win for the Texans. I can't see it going any other way. Cowboys, hilarious franchise to watch from the outside, but I can't imagine what it's like being a Cowboys fan. It must be horrible. But the Texans looking good again. Looked good against the Lions. Got quite unlucky in that game. The Lions are just too good. But I will back the Texans against the Cowboys, as any person probably should.
So that is it for our predictions this week. Also, we'll find out how we do at the end. As I said earlier, on our standings, this is my bye week, so mine won't count regardless. But finally, just one question for everyone. As we do normally at the end of the podcast, we had a little question. I've gone for this week, who is the most overrated and underrated team in the NFL this season? So we'll start with overrated. I'm afraid you're on the spot a bit here, but I'll give you a minute to think about it. We'll start with you, Kane. Who's the most overrated team in the NFL this season?
Let me have a quick think.
He's unprepared as well.
Yeah.
He knew the question.
I feel like the easiest answer would be the Chiefs, just because they're 9-0. I can't say the Chiefs because they're doing something right. They're rated for a reason. I will go for the Ravens because I don't think they've been as good this season as they have in recent years. It doesn't look like the same team that Lamar was leading last year. I think they are still obviously a really good side, but I don't think they're Super Bowl contenders this year at all. Don't know if that's just me that thinks that, but that's going to be my probably controversial take on this one.
Kim?
A lot of people were praising them earlier, but I mention it every week. They've beaten one good team. For me, it's the Broncos. I mean, the defense is unbelievable, right? I'll give them that. And Bo Nix is having a good season. But I'd like to see them with a harder schedule, if I'm being honest. Because the 4 out of the 5 teams they've beaten are teams you expect them to beat. You know, just off the top of my head, 2 of them are us and the Panthers. So, you know, that's if you take them 2 away straight away, that, you know, they're just not, for me, this unbelievable great team that everyone says they are. And I just, it might just be biased, to be fair, but I just hope they get dragged down to earth because, yeah, I can't stand them. Broncos.
Max?
I think I'm going to go with, it's tough. I think I'm going to go with the Vikings. Obviously, they started really well, but they've fallen off. And in recent weeks, I've seen nothing from them that makes me think this team are going to go to the Super Bowl, like James said the other week. Let's not let him forget that.
Can we not clarify? It was not the
never...
other week. It was about 6 weeks ago.
Yeah,
It was like week 4.
Still
It was
too
week
recent
3
to be
or
ridiculous.
something like that.
It wasn't because I was on the episode and I did not do that. The point is, the Vikings are not that good. I think they're overrated.
Andy, have you got one for us?
Same as Max. I've gone for the Vikings. I think they were amazing the first 4 weeks, but as I was saying before in the episode, since then it's been really bad. They're winning games still, but they are one of the worst ever 7-2 teams I've ever seen. The Colts game and the game against which I've forgotten who it was, against the Jaguars, were just terrible games, and the 2 before that were the ones they did lose were bad as well. So I think this team is nowhere near a 7-2 team. Although big Brian Flores fan, so like to do well, but they're not a 7-2 team for me.
I'm going to go with the Commanders, and it probably seems a bit biased, but as I said earlier, they've still not beaten the team over 500 on the record. As Keane's with the Broncos, I'd love to see where the Commanders would be if they had a harder schedule. Also, the fact that the NFC East, bar the Eagles, is terrible, so getting to play us is just a free win. The Cowboys is basically a free win at this point as well. So I think with a harder divisional matchup and with the harder schedule around, I think they wouldn't even be on a plus 500 record. Might be controversial, but I really do like Jane Daniels. I think they got a good thing by sort of brewing there in Washington. It's a young roster, and I don't think anyone expects them to be as good as they are. But I just don't think they're as good as people think they are. And I think I wouldn't even be surprised if they slip to a point where they might not even make the playoffs with a couple of tough losses, because I think the Eagles are going to win our division from now on. I think the winner of the game tonight, as recording on Thursday, will probably go on to be the winner of the division. And if they win tonight, I might change my mind on this, because it will really prove they can beat the big teams. So I think tonight's massive for them. But for now, I'm going to say the Commanders are the most overrated team in the league. And our most underrated team in the league, I'll go back to you, Caden. We'll go in the same order.
Bengals. No, it is unfortunately not the Bengals. We are too unlucky to be rated at all, I'd say. I'll go. You said this earlier, James. I think you might have the same as me. I'll go with the Chargers, because I do think that they are a very good team, and no one really picked up on it until very recently that they're secretly having a very, very good year, especially compared to last year. So I think Chargers are quite a good pick for this one.
I'll scrap the order for a second. I'm going to go next because I completely agree with you. I'm going to say the Chargers, and I really, as Andy said, about the whole potential championship game. I don't see it as that outlandish. I genuinely think Harbaugh behind Andy Reid is the best coach in this league, and again, that might be an outlandish thing to say, but I think the way they play has been excellent. You've got Justin Herbert, who's now turned into a dual threat quarterback, which no one really thought he was. But as Max said, really run heavy with Harbaugh, it was always going to be. J.K. Dobbins has come back from probably a comeback player of the year potential winner there, and J.K. Dobbins, 2 massive injuries he's had, which basically kept him out of action for so long, and he's come back this year and he's been great. As I said, Herbert's been great. Their defense has been unbelievable. I think Joe Alt's been a huge addition to that O-line. That's been really good this year. So I think the Chargers, for me, are definitely the most underrated team in the league and deserve a lot more praise than what they're getting. Kian?
Mine is not the Chargers, but I do agree with you that they are doing pretty well this season. Mine's the Cardinals. Not many people really speak about them. And they're they're doing very well. They're sat top of the division. They're going to make the playoffs, I assume. And they could have a little run in it as well. I do really like them. I'm not a massive fan of Kyler Murray as a player. I like watching him play Call of Duty every now and again. But he's been doing pretty good, actually, this season. He's all right. He's fine. Maserati Marv had a slow start, but he's looked better as well. Yeah, you just don't see anyone talk about him. And even when they had like JJ Watt and stuff, people never really speak about him. I don't know if it's because they're from Arizona. Maybe people don't like that. But yeah, I don't know. I'm going to go for the Cardinals. You just, all these big programs, Colin Coward and everything, they just never ever talk about them. And it just confuses me a little bit because they're having a really good season quite quietly, actually.
Andy?
Chargers as well. Cardinals are one I thought about because I think, again, they're 6-4. No one's talking about them. I think the Packers are one because I think they're 7-2, and I think they're genuinely, for me, I think a real NFC contender, and no one's really talking about them. Everyone's talking about the Lions in that division, or even the Vikings at times. But I think it's the Chargers. What I was saying before, how good they are in every sort of aspect, and I think what they've shown as well as the Lions in terms of high draft picks. You got a good O-line when they're available, like Penei Sewell, like Joe Alt. Just go and get them because you've seen how much they've improved since both Sewell came to the Lions and Alt came to the Chargers. So for me, the Chargers to me are one of the best teams I think in the NFL, and no one is really talking about them. I think again because their division. I think the Chiefs are just there 9-0. I think until they compete with them, I think they'll always be seen as a team that go under the radar. So yeah, for me, give me the Chargers easy.
Max?
I'm torn between 2 previously mentioned teams. I'm torn between the Packers and the Cardinals, although the Chargers as well. I agree with everything that's been said. I am going to pick the Cardinals. Kyler Murray has got 12 passing touchdowns and 4 rushing touchdowns this season so far. And I know we like to laugh at him because he's a very short man, but that is very impressive. Or I also like James Conner. Maserati Marv's got 6 touchdowns on the season as a rookie. That's not bad for week 11. And like we said, I think the top of the division, they're probably going to go to the playoffs. Maybe not top of the division because I think the 49ers are going to start picking it up a bit now. And yeah, it's weird how they've been underrated, and I've never heard anyone talking about them. Even I don't really think about them that much. I think, the Cardinals are quite good this season. I never really think past that. I think if they had a better defense, they could genuinely win that division for the next few years if they kept that roster together. The defense just needs to improve a slight little bit, and I think they're there.
So that is all from us this week. I want to say, first of all, thank you very much, Andy, for joining us this week as our guest predictor.
No problem at all. Really enjoyed it. Really fun to be on the podcast. So thank you for having me. Of course.
So next week we'll be back with all of the results from our predictions. Luckily, I'll be back without having to watch the Giants, which is great. Also, thanks to Caden, Kian, and Max joining me as normal, and we will see you all next week.
Cheers.
Goodbye.